As you know it, on this channel we are in the quest of finding the best profitable strategy that can keep us consistent, and to achieve this we need reliable strategy that is consistent and have done well in the past with relatively low drawdown, right? So as usual, I was on the internet and I got to see this strategy by Trading Rush. So it is a fractal breakout strategy that he said he have tested 100 times. But of course, testing a strategy 100 times doesn't give you the chance of knowing the strategy better, right? So that is why we need to automate this, then backtest for a long period of time, 3 years, 5 years, then we optimize to see if we can get the best out of this strategy. So let me quickly explain the strategy so that we can go into the automation part. So first thing first, I'll get rid of this. So I will close this because that is what we did in the last video. So I'll close this as well. You know what? Let me just use, okay, let me bring out a new this which is currently active. It is weekend, so let me open this and I'll remove this grid. Okay, so that is that. So let me quickly add the fractal. So I'll go for my indicator. So it should be under B Williams because we are dealing with the fractals, right? So let me just add it. Okay, let's use maybe yellow, and let's make it tick a little. So I'll just say okay. So this is it. Apart from the fractals, we also need the 200 moving average so that we can use it to filter out the long-term trend, right? So we can go for trend, and on that trend we go for moving average, which is this. Then we specify that 200 moving average, and I believe we said exponential, so we can give option to change this if we want. So you can just say okay, now we have the long-term trend. Let me just zoom close. Let me zoom out. So now when we are above the moving average, we will be buying, and when we are below the moving average, we will be selling, right? So that is what it says. So currently at this point we will be looking out for sell positions. So now what is the buy condition? The buy condition is this: once you are above the moving average, of course you are expecting a buy, right? So this is what he said we should be doing. We are going to look out for previous candles, fractal up and fractal down, right? So for example, this is the fractal up and this is a fractal down, and this is another example of a fractal down. This is a fractal up, fractal down, fractal up, fractal down. He said we are going to do this. So let's assume we have this fractal up marked, then we have this fractal down marked. So we are going to buy when a candle closes above the fractal up. You can see this candle closes above this fractal up, so we are supposed to buy here, and we are going to sell. Let's assume the market have a candle that closes below this fractal down, the recent fractal down. We are going to sell, and if we are above and if we are below the EMA, right, so that is when we are going to sell. For example, let's assume this. So for example, let's assume we are somewhere, let's say we are somewhere here, this fractal up and this fractal down. You see this candle breakout happened here, which should have been a sell, but the fact that we have this EMA filter, so that will prevent the trade, the sell position, which should have been a loss. So that's the essence of having the EMA filter. So in general, we have to look back to see the latest fractal up and fractal down. After getting the latest fractal down and fractal up, if we are above the EMA, we are going to look out for a close above the recent fractal up, and in the case where we are below the moving average, we are going to look out for a break and close below the fractal down. So that is the simple strategy. Then what should be our stop loss and what should be our take profits, right? Our stop loss for a buy case, let's assume, okay, let's go back to the buy case. So let's assume this is the situation where we are, and this is a buy case. Of course, this is a buy case, so we are supposed to buy here. So now our stop loss will be placed in the recent low, the recent fractal down, right? So this is it. Then our take profit can be based on reward to risk, or we can trail until the market hit our stop loss, right? So that is our option. So for the sell case, so let's assume we have a sell right here, okay, you know what, let me just, okay, maybe we should just use this. Okay, so this is not a correct setup, right? I just want to show you the stop loss for the sell. Okay, let's assume we have something like this. So and this candle closes, and this candle closes below the low, right? The recent low. Okay, I think this is the recent low. So let me just move this. So this candle closes below the recent low, right? So we are supposed to enter here, and the stop loss for this sell case will be the recent fractal up. So this would have been the stop loss. And if we are on 2 to 1, of course we will have, let's assume this gap is how many, this gap is 102, so that means 204. So about the stop loss will have been somewhere around here, if we are on, I mean take profit will have been somewhere around there if we are on reward to risk. And if we want to trail, of course we will have trailed. Like I said, this is not a valid sell case because we are above the moving average, so we should only sell if we are below the moving average and only buy if we are above the moving average. So that is how the strategy works. And if you find it hard to understand this explanation, you can go back to the video here, and so let's quickly get into it. I'll just pop up my IDE, which is my meta editor, and I'll create a new file. So I can just simply say Control N or Command N in the case where you are on Macs. You can go for a file, you can go for new, then go for Expert Advisor, then next you can give it a name. Let's give it Fractal Breakout from Trading Rush. All right, so I'll just say next, finish. Then I'll clean this up. So alright guys, so the next thing is, what are the things we need from the user? First thing first, we can get the magic number from the user. So you can just say 411 by default, whatever number you want to specify for default. So you can just say number. Alright, so what else? Let's use lot size, fixed lot size. By default it should be 0.01. So you can say lot size, right? So another thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we get the time frame, the best time frame to do this. So you can just say time frame, so that we can also use this in optimizing to get the best time frame. So you can say time frame. So another thing we need is we need to specify the reward to risk, right? So we can also optimize for this. So we can say reward to risk, let's say by default 2 to 1. So we can say reward to risk, right? So we can also specify if we want to trail, use trailing. So you can say true by default, right? So that is it. Then for now, we can also specify the comments for each position. So what label should be on each position created by this EA. We can just say fractal breakout EA. So we can say trade comment. So now before we move forward, we can just quickly get our include files, which will help us in getting the trade functions that we need. So then see trade, right? We also need the one from position info. So you can say trade position info dot MQH. I did not add MQH here. MQH. And for this, you can say position info P info. P info. So that is that. So now the next thing is, I want to say whenever you have a position from or order from these EAs, please give it a magic number of this, right? You recall that we'll be using the William fractal, right? So you can just say fractals, undo fractals, right? Then you can simply say undo fractals, right? So this is from fractals. So for this chart symbol and for this time frame, that is all we need to specify. Then we need setting for the filter EMA, right? For the filter moving average. So we can just give this a group name. You can just group it under general setting, so that we can have a setting for the moving average, right? So I'll just do this, and I will say for this, which is group moving average or moving average setting, right? So we can give the user the opportunity to specify the moving average, right? The moving average period. So I can just say MA period, which is 200 by default, right? So MA period. So we can give the opportunity to specify the method as well, MA method, right? So which is EMA by default. So I can say MA method. So let's also specify the price. So I apply price, MA price, which is closed by default, MA applied price. So I think that is all we need for now. So we can just come here and say undo MA, and for this we can say undo MA, IMA, oops, MA for this chart symbol, and for this time frame, and for this period, zero, for this method specified by the user, and for this price specified by the user. So that is that. So now the next thing is, I like having my strategy in a function. So in case you are new here, that is it. And in case where you are not new here, I'm very sure you're familiar with this style. So I will be returning nothing, right? So first thing first, I want to make sure that I'm not looking for fractal breakdown or fractal down. If there is an open position, just manage my position, and in the case where there is no open position, you can look out for position. So how do I know if there is an open position? I'll have a function that will return the trade index. So I'll call the function last position index. So what the function will be doing is to be getting me the last position index. So how do we do that? So let's quickly do this. So it will be returning the position index, right? So to be taking no argument, right? And this is how it's going to get it done. So it is going to loop through all the open position, right? Starting from the back, the last one, right? Then this, right? So after looping through, it is going to select each one using the index, right? Then if it is able to select it, it is going to compare the position symbol with the chart symbol. If that is successful, it is going to compare the position magic number with the magic number specified by the user. And if all this comparison works, it is going to return the index. And in the case where it doesn't match any, it is going to return -1. So now, if -1 is returned, if trade index equals -1, that means there is no open position, right? So what we want to do is we want to search for position. Search. And in the case where the value that was returned is maybe 0 or a positive integer, that means we need to manage our position, right? So you can say manage position, right? So that's that. So how do we search for position? First thing first, we need to get the index. What bar position is the last fractal up, and what bar position is the last fractal down? So how do we do that? So let's quickly do this. So I will create a function that will return an integer. Of course, a bar position is usually in form of an integer. So we can say get recent fractals up. Yes. So now we'll be looping through all the bars, right? But of course it won't be up the bars. So I can just say I bars, for this chart symbol and this chart time frame, right? So I will put this here, fractal up, right? So I'll say copy buffer from this handle, which is the handle fractals. So what is the buffer of this fractal up? Let's quickly check that out. So the fractal up, right, which is this, you realize that the buffer is 0. You can see this is the buffer, and the fractal up, how do we identify? Because sometimes the value is empty. So we can identify the fractal up when we realize that the eye of the fractal up is equal to the eye of that particular candle. You notice that this value is equal to this value when I over this candle. You can see that. And for the fractal down, this low of the candle is equal to the value of this fractal down value. Notice that. So that is how we identify if it is a fractal up or fractal down. So as I said, this is 0, right? So we are going to start getting our value from 0, and we just want how many do we want? We want bars, and we can say dump whatever value you are able to get, dump it in this fractal up array, right? So then I will say I want to sort my array as series. I want to sort the fractal up array as series, set to true. Now, what do I need to do? I need to loop through all the bars, right? So starting from index 2, because I'm very sure that fractal, the William fractal starts from index 2. There's usually no value given to the previously closed candle, the recently closed candle, and everything starts from the one after. So I'll just say this, and I want to make sure that this I is less than the bars, then I want to say increase by one each in each loop, right? So first thing first, I want to, since I'm looking out for fractal up, so I want to get the current I of the bars I'm currently on. So I can say fractal up for this chart symbol and for this time frame for this particular index, right? So I want to compare. So I want to say if fractal up for this current index is equal to the high, so please return. So I just want to get the latest one. So the moment you realize that, oh, there's a fractal up, which is the fractal up value is equal to the candle high, that means there's a fractal up, please just return the index, right? And in case after looping through everything you are not able to get a fractal up, just return -1. So of course this case is most likely never going to happen, but for safety reasons, for the sake of being able to compile the code, because since we tell the function that we'll be returning an integer, so we need to specify that at the end, in case where our logic doesn't work, please return an integer. So let me just change this to fractal down. So I'll say fractal down, right? So here I'll just use the n, and yeah, tn. So here we are interested in the low, right? So I can say low, I low, right? And for this, make sure that the fractal down is equal to this. So the moment the fractal down is equal to this particular low of the index we are currently looping on, just return the index, right? So that is what we'll be doing. Then what do we do from with this? We can just get the fractal up. So we can say fractal, we fractal up, fractal up index, right? So we can say get recent fractal up. So of course it will return the recent fractal up index, and you can say fractal down index. So you can say get recent fractal down, right? So that is that. Then we can simply get the high. So you can say the high, which is this, the high of the fractal up. So the reason why I'm not directly getting the high using this function is because we still need it. So and we will use it now. So let's just continue fractal up, right? And we can even draw a trend line to mark out the fractal up so that we'll be able to notice the recent one. But I don't think that is necessary, but in the case where it is necessary, I'm going to do it, don't worry. So you can just say fractal down for this. Now another thing we need is we need the moving average values as well. So and this is how we get it. So let's just do this moving average. So I'll say copy buffer from the undo MA, then the buffer is 0 because it's just one buffer. So and the start position is this, and how many do we need? You know what, let's just get we need as much as possible. You know what, let's just get for bars. So for this we can just quickly define this. So you can say bars, I bars, right, for this chart symbol, and for this time frame, for this time frame, and minus the MA period, because we is in the case where we are dealing with 200 period moving average, of course the last 200 candles won't have a value, so that is why I'm doing this. So okay, where do I want to dump the value? I want to dump the value here. I want to dump the value here. So and I can say sort. So I'll say sort please true. Then also I need to get the close of the previously closed candle, right? So I can say this time and 1. So this is it for the buy case. If the previously closed candle is above this high, that means it is closing above the previous candle up, right? It is breaking above the previous candle up. Then the close of the previous candle, right, is above the moving average. Oops, the moving average, right? So now I want to make sure that even my stop loss is above the moving average, so that I won't be opening a position in a ranging market. So I want to make sure that this is a clear uptrend, right? So to do this, I can simply say make sure that this low, so that means the recent fractal up and down, they are also above. So I want to make sure that the recent fractal down is also above the moving average. So but of course, since this low is based on this index, so of course I'll be accessing for this index. So that is it. Then in the case where that comparison is true, I want to buy. So let's quickly do for sale. So I can say if else if. So I want to make sure that I am closing below the low. The recent candle, which is the previously closed candle, is breaking the recent fractal down, which is this low. I can actually call this fractal down and fractal up. Let's just leave it like this. So, and I want to make sure that the previous candle is below the moving average. That's another thing. Then I want to make sure that the breakout, I want to make sure that the recent fractals, they are both the up and down, they are both below the moving average. So the reason why I'm not going to say the low should, I'm not going to compare check out for the low as well, is simply because so I can just say fractal up, right? Up. So the reason why I won't be saying and make sure that the low is below the fractal up, the reason why I won't be doing this and this, the reason why I won't be doing this is because so far that the high is below the moving average. Of course, the low will surely be below the moving average. So there's no need to check this. So it will be redundant to do this. So I will just leave it like this. So let's quickly settle our trading. So let's quickly settle this. So now, what should be our stop loss? Our stop loss should be the recent fractal down, right? Which is this. And what should be our take profit? Our take profit should be dependent on if we want to trail or not. So in the case where we want to trail, no take profit should be set so that we can trail until we want. So we can say the take profit. Okay, before we do that, we can just say XL. The XL will be the difference between the ask price and the stop loss. So the ask price, which will be the entry price for the buy, and the stop loss. What's the difference? So let me quickly define the ask price. So I will define that here. So I'll say this from symbol info double using the chart symbol, and this I'll also get the bid price because I'll be needing that as well. So I'll do this symbol bid, right? So that is that. Now after getting that, I'll now say for the target, right, for the take profit. So if trading is being used, right, so just set take profit to be 0, and in the case where trading is not being used, so just set ask plus reward to risk multiplied by XL, multiplied by the distance between the stop loss and the ask price. That's that. And since we already know the targets, we already know the take profit, we can easily say, oops, let me give it a space. I can easily say trade by, right, using this lot size. Then what symbol for this chart symbol, right? And at what price? At the ask price. What should be the stop loss? This should be the stop loss. This should be the targets, right? And this should be the comment. So if this is failing, if this doesn't work, if this is not successful, if this returns false, so I want to know the reason why. I want to know the reason why. So I can just say print, tell me the reason why. Order, send, error of this, get the error, and that's that. Also, I can make sure that I'm only trading once per candle. So that's another thing I can do. So to do that, I can just say, okay, let me do that up here. So I can just say date time last entry, right? So each time I open a position and it is successful, that means else if this return true, so I can just say last entry should be I time of this current bar, right? So of the current bar. So now I can also say, okay, let me just copy this. So I can also say, don't even bother, don't bother looking out for position if um, the last entry is equal to the current bar. Let's assume our position is take profit or stop loss on that same bar. Instead of opening a new candle, a new position immediately, it won't do that since we already traded on that particular um, position, just that we were knocked out by take profit or stop loss on that same candle. So to prevent trading more than once on a particular candle, that is why we are doing this. So for the sell case, what should be our stop loss? The stop loss will be the previous fractal up, right, which is this, right? Then what should be the gap? What is the gap between the bid price and the stop loss? So that's this top minus the bid, because of course the bid price be lower. So we can just say the targets should be also dependent on the trading. So if trading is being used, set the target to be 0, and in the case where trading is not being used, say target minus reward multiplied by Excel, right? Now we can simply say res trade sell, straight sell, and using the lot size for the chart symbol, and at what price, the bid price, the stop loss, the target, and the comment. So we can just copy this. So in the case where this is not successful, tell me the reason why, and in the case where it is successful, just say that, oh, the last time I enter a position was on this candle, and that is that. So let's quickly undo the training part. In the case where you are not new to this channel, maybe you've seen my videos, you know this is my way of trading, and you can just, I can easily copy and paste the code because we've done that in our previous videos. So but for people that are new here, be sure to subscribe so that you also be familiar. I will do this again because of you guys. So I will just say, if we are able to select, oops, before we do that, we want to make sure that trading is being activated, right? Then in the case where we are able to select the last position index, which is this, returned by this, returned by this function. So in case where you are able to select it, that is when we want to consider trading. So before we consider trading, what do we need? We need to make sure that let's even get our entry price, which is this price open. Also, we need to get our previous stop loss, right? So I can just say old Excel, right? Stop. Also, we need to get the current price, which is the potential price that we can close the position if we consider closing it right now. So we can just say price, and we can just say current. So we can do price current, right? So that is that. Also, we need to know the position type, so we can just say this position type. So this, we can get it from this position type. So if the position type is of buy, right, is of position type buy, and the difference between the current price and the old stop loss is times 2 of the gap between the initial stop loss. So how do we get the initial stop loss? Here we were able to get the initial stop loss, but of course we are declaring and initializing at the same time. So what we are going to do is we are going to declare this outside as a global variable, right? So I'll just remove this, and for this I'll remove this. So we are going to declare here so that it will be global, so that each time we are entering a new position, we just reassign that, oh, this is the new stop loss gap, and we can do that. We are doing that here. So we can just say make sure that the gap between the current price, which is the market price, and the old stop loss is times 2 of this, right? So we will see how that will work for us in few minutes. So in the case where that is true, what we want to do is we want to trail, right? So we can say trade position double, position modify, using the ticket. And now what should be the stop loss? The stop loss will be, okay, we can just say new Excel. So let's quickly define that. So I'll say new Excel, which is the current price minus this stop loss gap. So that will be the new stop loss. And what should be the take profit? The take profit should be the previous one, So oops, that is that. So, and in the case where we are dealing with the buy position type buy, so position type, I mean sell position. In case where we are dealing with sell position, so we want to make sure that the difference between the old stop loss and the current price is times 2 of the stop loss gap. This is it. So now what should be the new Excel? The new Excel should be the current price plus this Excel. Then in the case where that is successful, we can say um, trade position modify using the ticket. And what should be the new stop loss? The new stop loss is this, and the take profit should be the previous take profit. So that is that. So I'm very sure we are good to go. So let me just save and compile. Hopefully no error. Okay, no error. So let's go ahead and backtest, and if this is successful, we are going to go ahead and optimize. All right, so I'll just bring up my strategy tester. I'll make this lower, then I'll go for setting, then I'll pick off my EA. Okay, you know what, let's do this for gold. Let's go for gold. For testing sake, let's work on 5 minute time frame, and we are going to later get the best time frame in after when we are doing the optimization. So let's just make this 2026. Okay, we use $500 for the deposit, for the initial deposit, and be sure you have this optimization set to disabled since we are not yet there. And for the input, you leave this on this. Okay, reward to risk. So of course the reward to risk will be 0 since we are trading. And okay, you know what, let's not trail for now. So I think we should be good to go. Let me just click on start. All right, so we have started. So I will zoom close. I'll remove this grid so that you can't see. And okay, maybe there's something wrong, so let me just go back here. So you can see array out of range. So this is on line 66. So now you can see one of the problems we are having is, first thing first, we need to make sure that we are getting the number of moving average values that is equivalent to the maximum between this, the highest between this. So we can just say, instead of doing this, we can just say the bar should be let's say max maximum between this fractal up and fractal down and fractal up. So that is that's the first thing. And in the case where any of this returns -1, so if any of this return -1, of course that is most likely not going to happen. If this is equal to -1 or this is equal to -1, so please return, don't do anything. I don't want any problem. So all right, so I'm very sure you saw this, yes. And if you notice, when we were looking for fractal up, we said the index is 0, right? But of course we didn't, because we copy and paste, so we did not remember to change this to 1. So that is one logic error. So what we should do here is that we should have said get the maximum, then maybe plus 3, then this we save and compile, and that's another fix. Let's just start again. Hopefully we will have no error. So okay, I'll increase this a little. Hopefully it's not too fast. Then okay, oops, we have a buy position. Okay, where's the buy position? It happened somewhere here, and this is the recent fractal up. Okay, let me zoom close. We are above the moving average, and this is the recent fractal up, and this is the recent candle, and this is the recent fractal down. So that is why our stop loss was placed here, and there was a breakout after this trade closed here. There was a break above the fractal up. That is why we have a buy position, and you can see we are on 2 to 1, and of course this is 2 to 1. So that is why we have this take profits. Let us know we are on trading, of course we won't have this. So okay, let's see. Okay, it hit our stop loss, and when the candle, and here you go, we have another position right here. Okay, where did it happen? Let me, okay, it happened here. So this is the recent candle, this is the recent fractal up and this is the recent fractal down, and this particular candle closes below this fractal down, and the stop loss was placed here, right? And of course we are below the exponential moving average, so that's why we have that. So let's see what happens here. Okay, still hit our stop loss, so we can just continue. So I would like to see the part where it's trailed. So is there still an error? Okay, no more error. So that means none of, okay, we, oops, this is too fast. So I think the another problem is that it is trading. I think another problem is that it is looking for fractal up every time. So I think you should just look for it one time per candle. So that is another thing we should, so that it will make this bit faster. So let me just close this. So I can say last check. So instead of doing this, I can just say last check. Last check. Yes, since we are dealing with close of candles, so once we check on this candle, do not bother checking again. So if last check, oops, if last check equals to time, oops, this candle, if you've checked for this candle, please do not bother to continue. Last check, so just return. Oops. Then how do I know if it has checked? So after checking this and you still can't get anything, just say last check is on this candle, right? So I think that should make things faster. So I'll just say, instead of always looping through, going through the latest fractals, getting the moving average, stuff like that. So it will just check once, and that will make our backtest faster. So you can see it is now faster since it is checking once. Okay, we are having a position, we have another position, and I think we are good to go. So you will notice that, okay, we have a fractal up. I think the fractal up was previously somewhere here, but it has broken and it has moved. Okay, let's see. Okay, and we have another fractal up broken. Okay, we have a sell position. Okay, so you can see it is now moving faster. Okay, that's good. It is moving faster. Okay, I think we should be good to go. So let's just wait. I would like to see the trading in action, so I'll just close this and I'll set trading to true, right? So let me just start again. I want to show you how the trading work. So okay, you can see it has started trading. Okay, top. Okay, yes, see the second trading. All right, the third trading, the fourth trading. Okay, then we were knocked out. So okay, the first trading when it was at 1 to 1, and the next trading will be done when it is at 2 to 1, and so on. Okay, we were knocked out. So that's the first trading. Second trading. Okay, okay, so that is that. Let me make this faster. Okay, I think the trading is working fine, so we can go ahead with optimization now. So okay, we are good to go. Yes, we are good to go. So I'll just close this, then let's quickly optimize. So I'll go back to my setting, then I will specify that I want to optimize starting from 2022. So I'll start with deposit of 500, then I'll set this to fast, then I'll go back to my inputs. What are the things I want to optimize for? I want to optimize for the time frame. I want to start with 5 minute time frame, then I want to stop at 4 hours. Of course the 4 hours might be too much, we want something fast, right? So for the reward to risk, I can decide that, okay, you know what, start with reward to risk of 1, then I want to see increase by 0.5, then we stop at 7. I want to see which one is the best. Then I want to know if I should use trading or not. So try trading, and in the case where, and also try not trading. So I want to see the best. In the case where trading is set to fall, that is when this will be used. This optimization. And in the case where trading is set to false, that is the only time the reward to risk will be used, So and that is that. So that is it, and I'll just click then I'll click on start to see that in action. Then we wait for the optimization result to kick in. Then we analyze the optimization result together if truly this strategy, which is a fractal breakout from trading rush, works. Hopefully it works so that we will have another strategy automated in our trading arsenal. And let's wait for it. All right, guys, so the optimization result is ready. Let's quickly check it out. So okay, I will expand this. All right, so let me sort based on profit. I think it's sorted based on profits. Okay, yes, it was sorted based yes, this is sorted based on profit. So starting with $500 deposits, we were able to attain 2,801 with 1,465 total trades, and the drawdown was 26.8, that's less than 30. And on 5 minute time frame, reward to risk that was used was 5.5, and training was set to false. So this 5.5 reward to risk on 5 minute time frame attained 2,800 in the span of 3 years and 3 weeks. I mean, and 3 months, and with drawdown of less than 30%. And you can see this is another 5 minutes. This is another 5 minutes results, and this is less than 25%, almost 25%. And the reward to risk was 4.5, and trading was also set to false, and the profit was 2,374. And this is another 5 minute time frame. Of course, I think 5 minute time frame is good since it is giving the highest profits, but let's judge based on drawdown. Okay, if you have to judge based on drawdown, 4 hours time frame is good. You can see, well, it was trading was activated, and the reward to risk, even the reward to risk does not matter, of course. So trading was used, and the total trade taking was 132, and profit made was 2,000. So I think if you are, if you are after drawdown, you can just go for this particular trial, which is on 4 hours. Of course, you will trade less. You can see in the span of 3 years and 3 months, you only had we only had 132 trades. So if you want to trade less but a little drawdown and fairly good profits, you can just go for this. And in the case where you want to trade a lot, you want to be aggressive and you want more profits, you can just go for the 5 minutes. You can see these 5 minutes, but be ready to deal with drawdown of 30%, so but you have to work on 5 minute time frame, and use any of these settings depending on whatever you are fine with for this drawdown. And also note that the past result, maybe during optimization or during backtest, does not guarantee future returns. So we are only trying to be sure that this strategy is promising and it worked well in the past, and this is parameters, and this is how we should use it to attain something close to the past results. Using it in the live market doesn't guarantee that you are going to have a drawdown of less than 30. So this is more like it's just to give you an idea of what is probably coming. You might start using it maybe for this year, and you realize that you're already on 35% drawdown. So like I said, past result doesn't guarantee future returns or future results. So that is another thing you should take note of in case where you are considering using this on demo account or something. And of course, I'm not the owner of the strategy, so I can't give you a guide to use the strategy, even if you are fine with the drawdown or maybe you're after the profit. So that is that. So if you like content like this, be sure to like and subscribe, because every week on Friday we drop content like this. So be sure to like and subscribe. If you find it hard to understand some of the things I mentioned in the video, and you would like to learn how to develop your own indicator, or you would like to learn how to develop your own trading bot, you can check out the link in the description that leads to this page, where you have a complete guide on MQL5. So even if you do not know anything about Forex, you will be able to follow along And if you do not know anything about programming, you still be able to follow along because I break down MQL5 piece by piece. So all you need to do is make sure you go through this course step by step, lecture by lecture, and participate in all the practice. So you can see we even have 5 real life projects, and in one of the projects we learn how to send out telegram signals, right? Also we learn how to draw objects like trend lines, button, even create a dashboard. So be sure to check out the link in the description. Also check out the link in the description for the source code for this particular project. I hope you've learned something. I'll see you on the next one.